Merry Christmas from No Limit and the whole No Limit family. Man, this is the week that we honor the birthday of Jesus the Christ. I know we get all caught up thinking about the presents, but I'm caught up thinking about his presence here on earth. You've heard me say it before. I'm going to keep on saying it. I know we think it's about the presents, but what I'm telling you is this is about his presence here on earth. So we are taking this week to honor our God, to honor Jesus, who is the reason for the season. You know, Jesus is worthy of the honor, not just because of what he did, but because of who he is. I want you to understand what I'm saying here. He's worthy of the honor because of who he is, not just what he did. Had he never come back to earth to redeem us, had he never died on a cross and was raised from the dead for us, he was still worthy. He is worthy of honor because he is the King of Kings and Lord of Lords for their identity, meaning who God made them to be. And by honoring, all we mean is give value to, give weight to, understand that they're valuable. We celebrate the birthday of Jesus because we think that day is valuable. Why? Because it was the day that his presence came to earth, that man was set free, that we were now brought back with God, that it was the soon and coming King arriving on earth who had been prophesied for years. We celebrate his birthday for that reason, because of who he is. We celebrate your birthday because of who you are. They celebrate my birthday because of who I am. It's not your behavior, it is your identity. And in your identity is value. Now, this doesn't make excuses for bad behavior, but as kingdom citizens, we've been called to honor, and we honor people's identity. And so in this moment, you might be like, hey man, this is kind of a weird backdrop. It is a weird backdrop for Christmas, but when it comes to honor, I wanted to have an opportunity to demonstrate, how honor looks, what it feels like, and what it can produce. And so behind me, what you see, I'm actually going to step out of the way for a second. Behind me, who in this picture are some people who are very important. One, I'm right in the middle, so I'll jump back. There's some people who are important to me. Why? Because a moment of honor ended up being transformative in my life. About 3 or 4 years ago, this picture was taken in the sanctuary in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And so the gentleman to my left here, he is the executive pastor there. His name is Pastor AJ. Man, he has blessed my life. I'm actually going to do one of these just about him. But I want to take a moment and call both of them out because they may not know it, but they because of how they honor, they planted a seed in me. They created a cornerstone, a strong place, a foundational place for me to land when I needed it, when it felt like everything was shifting. The way that they honor, the way that they function in honor, by honoring identity, by valuing people for who they are, it changed my life, and it could have been overlooked by many. So I wanted to tell you the story. So that's Pastor AJ. And on this side, we have Pastor Paul, the senior pastor of Victory in Tulsa. And so I had the great opportunity to visit this church some years ago. And it's an amazing church, one of the biggest sanctuaries I've ever been in. It's a beautiful place, but what's more beautiful than the place is the people themselves. And so the experience I got there, and I've talked about this before, I showed up, and this is 3 years ago now. I showed up, and we were going into service that night, and man, I just bawled. I mean, this presence of God was so heavy, I just cried and cried and cried and couldn't stop crying. And Pastor AJ looked over to me and he was like, hey man, God's really working on you. And I didn't know why. I didn't know what was going on. So he picked me up at the end and prayed for me. And then he brought Pastor Paul's mom up and then she prayed for me. And then I got an opportunity to have a short conversation with Pastor Paul as well. And I didn't realize it in that moment. But when I look back, I realized that moment of honor would be the rock that I would land on when I was grieving the loss of my brother, because what you wouldn't know about this story, why this picture doesn't make sense to you, is you wouldn't understand this just by looking. But some years ago, Pastor Paul lost his father. His father transitioned. And so when I visited 3 years ago, he had just taken the reins, I believe, a couple years prior to that. And so what I was able to see is what it looked like after your leader, your father has transitioned, when somebody's got to pick up the mantle? What does it look like? Man, Tim, I got to see it up close. I got to see it in its authentic self. But that never happens if men of honor don't act honorably. Because AJ took the time. That's a mega church, huge church, lots of people for them to minister to. Because AJ took the time to notice that the Spirit of God was ministering to me and prayed for me, and then continued to have me prayed for, and then introduced me to pastor. Those moments are honor. They valued me as an individual, not valued someone because of a title. There are thousands of people in this place. Thousands of people want to come up and speak every night to these gentlemen. But they took the time to honor. Not honor because of a title or anything, but honor just because when you honor people, you make space for Holy Spirit to move. And I didn't know it then, and I'm sure they didn't know it. But there was a deposit that was made into me on that night. And so after my brother passed on that night, and the first thing I wanted to, when I was having real challenges with the Holy Spirit, I said, you got to show me. If you know all things and you knew this was coming, prove it to me. And this is how we did it. He took me back to this picture. This picture right here. This is in the picture in the front of the sanctuary in Tulsa at Victory. I've just bawled my eyes out for an hour and a half on a message I'm not even sure was preached because the Spirit of God ministered to me so heavy. And the Lord reminded me then that he sent me to Tulsa, Oklahoma to meet these young men so that I would see what transition looked like before I had to walk through it myself. And I would develop relationships so I would have somebody I could call and say, man, I'm hurting. I don't understand, because they'd already walked through it. It's a great story. And I appreciate these men to such a degree. Pastor Paul, I appreciate the way you minister. You make space for people to minister with vulnerability and transparency. I appreciate it. And I don't know if they know it, but I wanted to take a moment and give honor where honor was due, because just a few moments of time, just a few prayers, just laying hands, just spending a couple moments ended up being a transformative moment in my life. Years later, this was the moment the Lord looked back at and said, honor happened here, and I was able to move. I was able to make a deposit in you. I wanted to show you what honor looks like. Honor may not be the big thing. It may not be some huge seed that you put on an altar. It may not be doing something major. It may just be taking a moment and praying for somebody. It may just be taking a second and saying, hey, how are you doing? It's making sure you apply value to God's creation, which is us, people. This is just one example how something simple is honoring me. And I mean by honoring me, just taking the time to pray for me, to speak to me, ended up being the transformative cornerstone moment in the seasons of my life that I'm in right now. So I just want to thank him on today, man. And I wanted to be transparent with you guys because I want you to see these life experiences. This is what honor looks like in the wild, as Pastor Paul would say. This is what honor looks like in reality. When there's no cameras, when nobody can see anything. That moment when you say, you know what, you're valuable, I'm going to take that second and pray. I'm going to take that second to speak. I'm going to take that second and realize that God sent you here for a reason, and it's my job as a believer to figure out why. If you can approach life like that, if we can approach God's people like that, then we would be honoring Jesus. Because remember, he said that we would know his disciples by how we show love for one another. One of the best ways you can show love for one another is through honor. So hey, as we honor our King this week, as we celebrate him on his birthday this Christmas, make sure you honor the gifts, the presents of the people that God puts on your path every day. Pastor Paul, honor you, sir. Pastor AJ, honor you, sir. Victory, you guys have some amazing leaders. And you guys have made a change all the way in Richmond, Virginia, simply because of a word called honor. God bless you. Hey, go honor someone on today. Christmas is almost here. Celebrate at no limit. We love you.
Father, we just thank you right now. We thank you for another day to serve you, Father. We thank you for each and every family represented in these gifts right you, for the encounter that they would have with you and Holy Spirit.
No Limit Nation, there is no limit to your heart of generosity. And we were able to bless 10 families and 11 children with some amazing gifts. I'm talking everything from Nintendo Switches to brand new bikes. We were truly blessed to be a blessing. Not only were we blessed to give gifts, we were also blessed to give out several dinners this Christmas. We thank God and we celebrate the opportunity to love on our community. And we want to challenge and encourage you to love on your community as well. Find somebody this Christmas to be a blessing for. It could be the smallest thing, from a smile to opening a door to a free cup of coffee. Remember, you are blessed to be a blessing. And we are thankful that this year those who receive gifts will recognize that they are gifts, and next year they will be giving gifts. Hey guys, Merry Christmas, and remember, there's no limits.